There's a battle quietly raging in the shadow of Stellenbosch's iconic mountains, and it's pitting a fragile ecosystem against powerful developers.
There's a high likelihood that at least one threatened species has been lost in that development area.
In the heart of the Cape Winelands, another luxury estate is rising. But at what cost? The land, which is part of one of the world's recognized floral kingdoms, is being transformed into exclusive properties for the ultra-rich. Locals fear this development is a sign of things to come.
There's a letter from the municipality which states on record that there were no objections.
But as the paper trail unravels, a different story emerges. One of allegations of secrecy, soaring land prices, and a community's growing frustration.
He washed his hands of the situation and said, "You're too late."
Who really profits from development in the winelands, and who stands to lose?
My kinders, hulle sal nooit dit kan bekostig nie.
This is the story of Botmaskop, a story of vulnerable beauty right on the edge of one of South Africa's most sought-after towns, Stellenbosch. Some have described Stellenbosch as the crown jewel of the Western Cape, with its clean streets and manicured flower beds. So it's not surprising that it's become a prime destination for the super wealthy who want to live a winelands lifestyle. So property developers are on the prowl here for opportunities, most notably gated lifestyle estates. And possibly the most extraordinary of these ventures is Botmaskop Estate, right on the town's urban edge. The development has come as a shock to some locals, like botanist 𝗀𝗶𝘀. He walks in this forest weekly, looking out for special plants.
It's just over here. This is the Cape Wineland satinflower.
So is this an indigenous plant?
This is indigenous and endemic actually to the Cape Winelands. One of 3 endangered species that I've already found growing just randomly in the pine trees here on Botmaskop. This is Botmaskop here.
We walked a few meters further and behold, a large construction site.
Guarantee that.
Oh, wow. With breathtaking views. So this is it, eh?
This is part of it.
Once a farm, the land is now destined to be an exclusive estate. Yo, it looks precarious.
I don't know, they're going to do some balancing act here to get some houses up. The first thing I did was I tried to find out where is the environmental impact assessment. These documents are supposed to be available publicly and just couldn't find anything, so I started digging a little bit deeper.
Stellenbosch residents have been tracking plans for this property for 2 decades. They had supported an initial development 20 years ago, after an environmental impact assessment was done in 2003. But not this. Originally, approval was granted to build a small mountain resort here. It would have a hotel with 10 rooms and 15 chalets. But that was never built. 𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗃, a retired town planner, was caught off guard.
This is municipal land, and this is the issue here.
Pieter is from the Stellenbosch Interest Group, or SIG. It's a group of local activists who engage with the municipality on land use applications and the provincial government, which oversees environmental approvals.
People around town said, "Oh, Pieter, you're on the committee there. What the hell is going on at Botmaskop?"
But the bulldozers were already carving up the land into 77 Irvin, and SIG's application for permission to lodge a late appeal to the responsible provincial minister, Anton Bredell, was denied. Why were the people never informed?
Reasons were asked for were never provided. The answer was, we must take it to the High Court.
It was only after I started snooping around here that they started putting up fences and gates. But yeah, it's all happened very, very, very fast.
There's a long and complex paper trail concerning this property that stretches from the top of Botmaskop all the way to the mayor's office. It's a cat and mouse game involving development rights and zoning. The Stellenbosch municipal manager, 𝗀𝗁𝗍𝗍 says the development is a done deal. You know, some Stellenbosch residents call it a scar on the mountain.
Yeah, they can, but probably it's a perception issue. People don't tend to understand that a town that doesn't develop dies. You need to develop in order to create those access and services and cross-subsidization that you so much require. Who is going to pay for that? The key here is to make sure that whatever you develop is sustainable and that it doesn't have a negative impact on the environment. The question is, how do I deal with the hand that I've been dealt with in a manner that is beneficial to everybody?
Are you under pressure right now?
No, I don't see it as being under pressure. I have a council policy, and my council policy is what we call the spatial development framework.
But the property developers are fierce lobbyists.
No, they can lobby as much as they like. It depends on who you talk to. If you're going to speak to the developer, they're going to tell you I'm a witch.
And if I speak to the community?
They're going to also tell you I'm a witch.
Across the road to the entrance of the estate is one of Stellenbosch's oldest suburbs, Ida's Valley. But thousands of people here are on a waiting list for social housing. Resident Alison Smith and her neighbors are worried about the future of the community.
Om hier te bly of in so 'n tipe huis te bly, my kinders sal dit nie kan bekostig nie. Weet jy hoeveel mense hierso is? En jeug is unemployed. Daar is net niks, daar is nie werk nie. En op die einde van die dag kos dit, jy moet maar nou 'n hokkie gaan opsit.
The development of a luxury estate on their doorstep is salt in the wounds. This group remembers that Ida's Valley used to stretch over the 𝗀𝗁𝗍𝗆 road in earlier times.
Dit was alles Ida's Valley.
Hier beplanning.
Die pad het die skeiding kom maak.
These Ida's Valley residents say that more recently, the municipality had considered land there for social and low-cost housing.
Daar's groot verwagtinge.
Vir huise op die Botmaskop.
Vir huise, ja. Dis mos nou beloftes wat gemaak was oor die jare deur die munisipaliteit. So dit is hoekom ons mense ook mos nou nie uitbeweeg uit hierdie area uit nie. Hulle hou vas hierso, want dit is mos waar ons gebore is. En dis hoekom hulle daai verwagting het dat hier laagkoste behuising of middelklas behuising gebou gaan word.
This plan now seems to be off the table. 𝗀𝗁𝗍𝗍 conceded that a feasibility study for social housing was done on an adjacent piece of ground which had also gone by the name of Botmaskop, possibly creating confusion.
I think there is a bit of a misunderstanding there.
And people we've spoken to recall those meetings with the municipality.
Well, I wasn't privy to those meetings.
Some in the community are also angry over a controversial land swap between Botmaskop Estate and the municipality earlier this year. In exchange for 4.5 hectares of very steep slope, the developers are gaining a buffer sliced out of municipal land on their top boundary. What you got was a steep hill with bicycle trails on.
Yes, which is access to the entire Stellenbosch community.
And you say that's worth exactly the same amount as a piece of land right on the border where they're building an estate worth hundreds of millions of rands.
Yes, I am saying that because they will never be able to develop there.
Local councillor Marius van Stade says the land swap was pushed through council without proper public consultation, a charge the municipal manager denies.
In terms of the motivation given to us in council for the land swap, they indicated to us that the land of the property, the private property developer, is of the same value and market value of the municipal land, which is untrue. Because the land of the property developer is laying in a ditch downhill, while the two land parcels of Stellenbosch Municipality was on top of the hill with a nice view to Cape Town as well.
The Botmaskop land price has surged since the plan to turn it into a residential estate took shape. Although a previous owner says that the purchase prices recorded at the deeds office did not always reflect the actual land values of the time, nor the acquisition costs. This piece of mountainside was bought in 2003 for just over 3 million rand. It changed hands, and then in 2017, it was sold for 14 million rand. 5 years later, it was sold again, this time for 200 million rand. The new owners, property developers Werner Roux and 𝗀𝗵𝗀𝗆, say they are rehabilitating the site, planting indigenous vegetation. Despite the bad weather, Werner showed us how their plans were taking shape on the mountainside. It's a pity about the rain. These are steep slopes.
Especially during the rainy season, it was very challenging. But Govan, that is what it looked like. Look at that side of the valley.
Yeah, those are the alien trees.
And on the top there, you can see that is the municipal land where there are no alien trees and just indigenous fynbos. So that is how we inherited the site, full of these alien trees.
Werner introduced us to a buyer, Pieter Brandijn, an experienced property entrepreneur from out of town.
We come here on a weekend, or we come for restaurants, or we come for lifestyle. But firstly, I made an investment decision to say, I think it's a good investment. And then you bring in lifestyle.
Can you say how much you paid for the plot?
Too much, too little, you know, the right price. Somewhere there in the middle is the right answer.
Was this an expensive buy? That's what I'm asking.
For Stellenbosch, I think it is an expensive buy.
Prices in the catalogue show plots range from 4 million up to 30 million rand. Werner and his partner have bought a plot themselves. Can you talk about who's buying?
We've had some Europeans that have bought.
Some Russians?
Some Russians have bought, but the bulk of the buyers are South Africans.
And according to Werner, gated estates are exactly what the market wants.
Bear in mind that a lot of the people that are relocating to the Cape are all ex-Gauteng people. Those people are very concerned and they are very risk averse, and therefore they insist and they will only buy in gated estates.
How difficult is it to get the authority to go ahead with such a development when there are groups actively pushing against it?
In terms of our process and the final approvals, I'll show you that there were no objections to our application. And I've got it in writing here to show you.
What's the date on that environmental impact assessment approval?
2021.
2021. In tracking the steps that led to that 2021 approval, we established that a public participation process was started and then scrapped.
And that's where the application to develop just vanished. It means that there was no further feedback from the environmental practitioner who had registered the interest group as an interested and affected parties.
But the plans to develop didn't stop.
Well, behind the scenes, things were happening.
The next thing Pieter knew was that the land had been sold, and the original environmental authorization for a resort in 2003, now amended, was the ticket to build.
Yeah, it's a different concept. That is like chalets and accessible to the broader community. This is a sterile piece of land for the super rich.
Essentially, the Department of Environmental Affairs and Planning had given its approval to the residential estate without the developers having to engage in a new environmental assessment, nor canvass public opinion again. Was there any other environmental impact assessment done that you've seen after the change was made to develop a residential property?
I honestly can't tell you.
It's now the 11th hour, but the Stellenbosch interest group has not yet given up the fight.
The buildings are yet to come. You know, when people pay up to 25 million for a plot, they're not going to put a pondok on there. There's going to be a big structure there.